What up, everybody? Welcome. Happy Monday. This is another episode of the Grit and Grind Show brought to you by the Off the Bench podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Ball, and today we're going to be joined by United Grig League's Tampa Bay Brigade member, Dan Haberman. Dan is a vet of Grid. He is a military man. And we're going to get his story. We're going to talk all things Tampa Bay Brigade. We're going to talk about next season, what to anticipate, what to expect. But before Dan joins us, we have to pay the bills around here. So the In Off the Bench podcast, Grit and Grind Show is brought to you by Chinook Seedery. Whether you're on the field or in the boardroom signing deals, Chinook helps you get the job done. Memphis City Designs, get your brands, gear, and logos on everything from shoes to underoos. Get your In Off the Bench gear while supplies last. Relief Chiropractic, go see Dr. Vic Robinson. He's got the magic hands. He's rejuvenating people. He's adding years to folks' life. I'm telling you, go see him. You won't be disappointed. And Old Dominic Distillery, experience 150 years of tradition in the heart of downtown Memphis. From bourbon to vodka, whiskey to gin, Old Dominic's got you covered. Stop in a day for a tour or just to pick up your favorite bottle. As a matter of fact, you can go online, you can go in the shop, you can do a lot of things, but make sure if you're attending holiday parties, be the life of the party. Pick up some Old Dominic's. Be the Christmas spirit. Be the Christmas cheer that everybody wants you to be. Bring Old Dominic's when you come. And with that, the business has been attended to. The bills have been paid. We got to get on to the show. Help me welcome on to the show with the biggest interview in podcasting this week, Tampa Bay Brigade star, Dan Haberman. Dan, my man, what up, dude?
What's up, man?
It's good to have you. You know, I wanted to first and foremost start by telling you, thank you for your service, man. Military guy. I saw the social media. My other co-host is a Navy vet, so he would be, honored to have you on the show. So I appreciate you coming on. Appreciate you carving out some time in your day to talk. But
Yeah,
let's
absolutely.
get into it. Let's get into it, man. Obviously, a military guy. When I talk to a bunch of people who are in the military, they have these elaborate stories, or it's a family thing. But I'll get with you. Where are you from, and how did your life turn to military? Was it something you always wanted to do, or is it something where you're like, oh man, that's something, this happened in life and it made me want to do this?
Yeah. So I'm originally from the Dallas, Texas area, and I guess I always wanted to do something in public service, but I was never really quite sure. Um, my cousins are in the Navy, and I always saw that route, and I thought it was kind of cool. But I was like, I have to one up my cousins. I can't just do what they do, especially because if I join that service, they're going to outrank me, and then it's I can't have that. So
No.
uh, I was like, what is the best way to one up them and to try to be the best I can be? And one day I was at a college fair and I saw a Marine in dress blues. And I was like, I'm going to do that. So
I
after,
I can imagine just being in the CrossFit space and in the grid space, you meet a lot of people who are very mindsets are very different. And so when I think about someone who is in that atmosphere and they're now a military person, like the mind and the intensity and the level of focus and dedication to being the best at something, I can
Mhm.
only imagine what your day-to-day life is like, just with that mentality. So I'm curious as to are you still in the military? And if you are, what's the plan? How far are we taking this thing?
Yeah. Well, first off, I really think that, CrossFit and all of the those mindsets, it really helps with being in the military and dealing with adversity, and really building like mental capacity, I guess. Yeah, so I'm in the Marine Corps. I've been in the Marine Corps a little over 15 years now, and I've got 5 years left, man. I'm gonna retire in 5 years and just live the quiet life, hopefully.
You say quiet life, but I'm sure There's some weights, there's some barbells, there's some dumbbells, there's some things that are going to get wrecked when that
Yes.
years is up, because I know that, training, you have time to train and it's a part of your day-to-day operations, but also when you don't have that day-to-day, like, you're going to have to fill that void with something, and why not more training?
Yeah.
Uh,
No, that's the plan. That's the plan. I've already talked to my wife about it.
so if you don't have a garage gym, I'm sure a garage gym is probably in the works. So we'll get some social media, videos of you out there doing your thing in the garage. But Um, biggest thing we gotta talk about is grid, man. I gotta know a little bit about the evolution of grid and where you found it. Grid League
Mhm.
started this huge undertaking, the MPGL, where there was big money, big stages, big drafts, and it kind of fizzled
Mhm.
out from a financial standpoint. Mather and Ruby took it over, and it became a regional thing in Florida, and and went from the Florida Grid League to now what you see as the current day of the United Grid League. You've got
Mhm.
teams that were in Florida, and now you branched out to teams that moved out of Florida. You've got teams in Atlanta. You've expanded to a team in Houston, and you're getting representation of athletes from all over the United States at playing with these certain teams.
Mhm.
But with that, man, I ask you, where did you find grid? And was it a through CrossFit, or was it through what you saw through a social media search? Because we've heard it all.
Yeah. Well, I knew about grid because my friend Kristen, she's played on the Sharks for the past few years. So I'd
Mhm.
always seen it, but I never really paid it any mind. I was just like, those people are crazy. Uh, Kudos to them. I cannot do something like that, you know? Um, and then I was on deployment last fall, and on this deployment, we had kind of like a CrossFit gym, and us coaches would take turns coaching classes. And I spent, man, I probably spent 4 hours a day at that gym, um, and just training, because outside of work, you have nothing else to do. You're away from home. So, like, what else are you going to do? You know? And it was getting close for the grid trials. And my friend Stacy, she told me, she said, I think you would be really good at grid. You should try out. And I was like, I don't know if I'm strong enough. I don't know if I have the capacity for that. She was like, her roommate, Marissa, is on the brigade. And she was like, I've been to a few matches, and I think you could do it. I was like, well, I remember telling her, I was like, I'll give it some thought. Uh, so a couple weeks went by, and then I saw the brigade. I ended up following the brigade on Instagram, and they made a post that said that they were looking for anyone interested, any new players. And I was like, maybe that's a sign. So I messaged them. I said I would love to try out to be on your team. And the same time I messaged that, and then I signed up for the grid trials. And then they messaged me back, and they said, okay, awesome. They let me know about the combine. And I was like, well, I'm in Africa, so that might be a problem. you know. Uh, so they sent me a screenshot of all the different ladders in the mirrors, and they said, okay, well, I want you to do these, video them, and send them to me, simultaneously doing whatever you want to do in the grid trials and see how that pans out. I was like, all right. And so I was in Africa. After work, I would go to the gym, load up the bars. I'd have somebody record for me, and then sent all my videos to the brigade. Um, and then one day they were like, hey, we think you have what it takes. So, and the
You know,
rest is, I guess, history from there.
you know, you almost if things didn't map out the way, like, just perfectly, you almost had the shortest stint as a player on the brigade. "Hey, man, we like you. Oh, by the way, I'm in Africa right now." Well,
Yeah,
thanks.
yeah. I was really fortunate that I was able to make it home when I did too, because we were having a team training camp, and my deployment actually got extended 90 days. Um, but I was really fortunate to be on the wave that got to go home in time. Otherwise, I wouldn't have made it home until probably 2 weeks before the first match.
Do you, do you think that was, kinda like, do you believe in, like, it was meant to be, it was meant to happen, like, when things align like that? I feel like there's, like, something in this world that allows us to have that kinda moment every so often, and,
Hmm.
like, I do feel like a destiny type thing, like, things are meant to happen for a reason because you get a part of the team and, like, you kinda crush it, man, you dominate. When I talk to, uh Jess and Tomas, they're like, "Oh man, I'm so glad you're having Dan on. He's such a good dude. Like he absolutely kills it." So having you on and like knowing like the background and the story, how you got into it, that's pretty awesome. You know,
Hmm.
given the expansion of grid moving into Houston, is what's your thought process on that? Like, I'm just curious to what people think. Are they excited? Are they nervous? Like, what is the mentality knowing like this league is now expanding to places that maybe 2 years ago we would have never dreamed of it.
Yeah, yeah. Man, I think it's awesome, right? Having done the sport for a year now, like it's an awesome sport. I hope that the league continues to grow. I think it's exciting adding more teams. That's just more people for the brigade to crush, you know. Because I mean, we're hungry, we're ready. It doesn't matter who comes in front of us. We're gonna bring it. And I think the league expanding. I think it's awesome personally. I know a few of the people on the team. They're excited for it too. So it's I think it's a great sport and has potential to, you know, get larger per se.
Yeah, I think so too. Like just being a follower of it since the beginning, like
Hmm.
you see the evolution and you can see where the things that created issues early on, all of those things have been rectified, and the
Hmm.
scale is much smaller, and the vision is not not small by any means, but it's like, all right, let's master this, and then we'll expand to this. We don't want to try to like take on too much because I think in the beginning that was the downfall is trying to
Hmm.
take on too much, and now we're in a position where you're branching out of Florida, you're expanding to Houston. Like there's talks of, there's currently 9 teams, and then there's talks of there going to be a 10th team before the start of next season. So everything like is like all positive as far as the direction of the league. And with you, you said this was your first year, and you're currently in Texas, right?
I'm in North Carolina.
Okay, North Carolina. Even better. So how does that work for you? How does a guy in North Carolina compete for a team located in Tampa Bay? Because a lot of people have asked me like, "Well, how does that work? How do these players from out of state make do they make the drive for practice? Do they do it remotely? Obviously, they're having to show up on match days and compete in
Mhm.
person, but how does all that work, and like what's it like being away from Tampa in a different state and having to make all those things work for you?
Uh, it's a challenge, that's for sure. So, I mean, for practice, it's all remote. Um, I
What does a
know
remote practice look like? I'm curious.
we set up Facebook Messenger, and then the team that's local in Tampa, they're all at the gym, and then they can see my smiling face, as well as with Rebecca. This year it was just us two.
Hmm.
And then we just, I don't know, when coach says go, we do whatever movement that they want us to do for our assignment. So
I feel like with just the digital part and the maybe like the lag and like just technology being what it is, I feel like when you guys get together in person in the matches,
mhm,
everything is way like you do things way faster than what you practice it just for that aspect. So,
mhm.
but I mean, I'm sure that, is it beneficial in your eyes to be able to do that, or would you rather, be in person? Like, I feel like you guys are doing a great job of handling it remotely, but, I ask you, like, would you personally rather do it in person as opposed to a remote situation?
If I had the choice, I would rather do it in person,
Mhm.
just because everything's a lot faster. Um, but I do think that doing it remote is still beneficial.
It's gotta
You
be
know.
because you are one, you're getting to be a part of the team, and that's a
Mhm.
big deal when it comes to practice. Like, the last thing you wanna do is to be the guy that shows up on match day and people are like, "Yeah, I knew this guy was on the team, but I've never seen him before. Oh, he moves pretty
Yeah.
good."
Yeah. No. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It
I ju
really does help.
I just know that there are some athletes out there that just are like, "I like training by myself. I would
Mhm.
prefer, like, the remote style. Just tell me what I need to do, and that's what I'll do."
Mhm.
As far as, getting my stuff and driving and getting in the gym, like, I'd rather just do it, you know, at home.
Yeah. See,
So
I don't mind working out by myself, but when it comes like with the brigade, I need that feedback.
yeah.
So, like, I need to know what I did good, what I did bad, so that way I can improve.
So what
So,
is what does training look like? And obviously working out on your own, like, you have to
mhm.
have a different switch if you're gonna be a professional athlete, which you are. Being able to flip the intensity switch when you're at home by yourself has got to be tough. Like, what do you do for training, and how do you make that transition? How do you flip the switch, or is it always on?
um, so when it comes to that kind of intensity, it just varies depending on what I'm doing. A lot of times, uh, I work out by myself in a corner in the gym. But roughly 3 to 4 times a week, I'll jump into a CrossFit class and work out with the class. Normally, the 9:30 a.m. class, which at my gym particularly, it's all the moms, and I have some you know athletic individuals that push me every time I jump in that class.
Let me tell you
Um,
something, man. If you want to be humbled, get into a mom's CrossFit class and watch
mhm,
what goes down, because those women get after it,
yep,
and it
that
makes you humble really quickly as
yep,
far as what you think you can do and what you think that you can't do, because they
yeah.
crush it, absolutely
Oh no,
crush it.
absolutely. I mean, that's what got me into CrossFit. I was 25 and I tried a CrossFit gym and I got beat by a stay-at-home mom. And I was like, how is this happening? I'm 25, an active duty Marine, and I just got worked. So I totally understand that.
They they have I don't know. I talk about flipping the switch of intensity, but they have a
Hmm.
different switch, and it's clear
Yeah.
like they have something that we don't. But with
Yeah.
that, what's day to day training? Obviously, you're doing CrossFit classes. You're kind of working out on your own a couple days.
Hmm.
Are you doing CrossFit every day, or are you specializing in grid stuff a couple days of the week and then doing the CrossFit classes? You're doing CrossFit there. Like, what is it? What's the structure
So,
for you?
so every day except for Thursdays and Sundays, I'll do a weightlifting movement, whether it's snatches or cleans or just jerks. I mean, it just varies on my programming. But then once I do that, After that, I'll follow it with a powerlifting movement. And then some days, I mean, that'll be it. Like, I just want to get my technique work in and my strength training in. And then some days are more my intensity days. So most of the time, Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays are intensity days. Like, I jump into the class, or I'll follow the workout that's been given for my programming, and I'll just hammer it as best I can. That way, I mean, it just depends on how the week's written out for what I have to do.
Yeah.
But for the most part, 3 days of high intensity work, just so that way I can. One thing I learned this year about grid is that you have to have some kind of conditioning. You can be as strong as you want, but moving that barbell so fast is exhausting. So I am one of the things working on is working on my conditioning. So that's why, 3 to 4 times I hammer it.
Yeah, it's I think it's a good way to balance overall fitness. Like when you're training for grid, or
Mm-hmm.
CrossFit is says it's for functional fitness for everyday life and the
Yep.
unknowing things that pop up. But I think grid in a category of itself, you like you said, you have to have a strength balance. You have to have a metabolic, engine to some degree. You have to have a body weight, specialty.
Mm-hmm.
Not every player has to be great at just doing their body weight, but there are different components of grid that you have to be stable. You have to have mobility. You have to, be able
Mm-hmm.
to support your own body, before you throw weights in there, because once you start throwing weights in there in certain movements, you break down. And when you're
Yep.
talking about, milliseconds and seconds that determine the winners of races, that means like it comes down to efficiency, because
Yep.
most of the people that you put in each race are going to be capable of doing the movements. It's just who can maximize their movement patterns the most effectively by being as efficient
Mm-hmm.
as possible.
That's
Um,
honestly how each race comes down to, is who was efficient in the movement and didn't get faulted.
Yeah, and it's almost to some like it is very, very difficult to not fault. And only because you're moving so fast. It has nothing to do with like you're not trying to hit depth or whatever
Yeah.
the standard is for the movement. It's just you don't think about it because your mentality is I got to go fast. I got to go fast. And then on
Yep.
top of it, you're surrounded by your teammates in most, aspects, but you can look across the grid and you can see exactly where the other team is, and it's like, oh shit, I would think that I'm always like, even though we might be in the same, quadrant, I would always think that I we're behind. I
Yeah.
would just be like,
Yeah.
move, move, move.
Yeah. I
Um,
just stay pedal to the metal. Like, I it's like I don't know, like zone in. I can't see where they're at. I'm not thinking about them. I'm just floor
just
it, you know.
just go. If you get
Hmm.
faulted, just you gotta do an extra
Yep.
rep, and it better be fast.
Yeah, and exactly.
So looking back on last season, you guys make the playoffs. You
Hmm.
came down to the very last regular season. Obviously, the way that the season shook out wasn't entirely as scripted as it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
You're supposed to go to Vegas. The regular season was supposed to culminate there. Hurricane had other plans, and the
Hmm.
league, and they did a great job of making the matches that could happen, beneficial, but also
Hmm.
leaving room for, once everybody was able to get back together, to have a way to fairly get a four team playoff, based on the current standings and what was left to be played. So
Yeah.
I always, tell everybody, whoever was a part of those decisions being made, that was a great way to do it.
Yes, it
It
was.
left everything fair. It left everything in Vegas, competitive. It made them mean
Hmm.
something, but obviously it gave allowance to people being able to, at the end of the season, come back together and really, earn their way into the playoffs. And for you,
Yeah.
obviously, did you get a chance to go out to Vegas?
Yes, yes, I did.
Oh man, how was that?
Man, it was awesome. It was awesome. The whole super team thing, it was amazing. To get to, I guess more or less network and get to compete with people on other teams who a lot of times you probably would never even speak to them other than
Yeah.
like in passing, hey, what's up? Um, it was humbling and a great time. Absolutely.
So I ask everybody that goes. I
Mhm.
Once the dust was settled and everything was clear, I've been told I don't know anything. I'm just asking questions, just a guy asking questions. Everyone got a chance to go out and after party. I'll call it that. Was there any what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas stories? Not so much from you personally, but things that you've heard from other people.
I haven't heard anything. I guess I'm just out the loop, I guess. I don't know. My wife and I had a phenomenal time. After that last match on that Saturday, we went out and enjoyed our Vegas time.
So I think that's the safest way to do it. One and two, like if I take my wife to Vegas, she will go absolutely crazy just because she's a Vegas for whatever reason. She loves that place.
Yeah.
And so if I was there, like I would have had to bring her and I would have had to probably babysit her a lot
Hmm.
outside of like, the events going on. But it would have been fun either way, and I always ask because, everyone has that as soon as you say Vegas, you know what everyone's thinking, like, they wanna
Yeah.
know. So, obviously, you guys had a great time in Vegas, you get back, you sounds
Yeah.
like you got to spend some time with your wife and, like, make it more of a personal trip as opposed to a business trip,
Yeah.
it was both, but you get back, the brigade, you finish off regular season in Fort Lauderdale, you take on the Palms, and you don't
Hmm.
necessarily have to beat the Palms. You just can't lose by more than 5 points, which in grid is it, 5 points can be doable. It wasn't like it was
Hmm.
like a typical thing to happen, but um with that, knowing that you didn't have to win, what's the mentality? Are you still going out there saying, "Oh, we got to win," or do you go, "Hey, let's be smart about this. All we got to do is make sure that we stay within 5. We know if we win or when we win, we're still going to have to compete the next day, and then if we win that, we're going to have to compete again." So like being able to recover and having the mindset of all right, like there is some strategy into this last regular season match. Was there any
Yeah.
talk of that, or was it strictly go out and win?
Honestly, it was just, hey, go out and win because we were told if we won by a certain gap, then it would jump us in the standings, and that's something that we were like, well, okay. And
Yeah,
then everyone on the brigade is a we're gonna hammer it and we're gonna win. Like if not one person on the team was, hey, just as long as we don't lose by 5. That
right.
not one person said that. Every race in that match was, hey, we're back at 0, floor it.
That's
So
that's the safest route, man. You take if you just go out and do what you're supposed to do and win, like you
hmm
don't have anything to worry about. Obviously the Palms, different mindset because they knew they had to win and they had to win by a
yeah,
lot. So like when you get the target on your back and you know that you're getting someone's best shot, it's a lot more difficult to win and do those things. But obviously
yeah.
you guys get into the playoffs. You get the 4 seed. You're taking on the number 1 seed, the Sharks. It that whole match comes down to the very end. Um, you
hmm
know, with you looking back on that last race,
hmm
was there anything differently that you guys would have done, or just they were the better team during that race, and that's what it was? Or was it anything? There was nothing to do with that race in particular. It was a culmination of some miscues early on that allowed them to be in that position.
No, I mean, personally, my movement pattern on one of the on that last race, if I could take it back, I would have, not got faulted on my overhead squats. But I think that was a phenomenal match. Like, we were just going the whole time. We were jiving, they were jiving. It was about halfway through, we figured like this is going to come down to sprint relay. Like these, but even still, we were like, we got this. We
Yeah.
got this. Like, hey, every time, hey, we're back at zero. Hey, if they won a race, like, hey, back at zero, back at zero. We won a race. Hey, there's no like, cool. Don't worry about that. Move on. And that, you know, God, that's it's one of the hard losses when you lose like that. Um, but then again, like the team, I'm very proud of that team. I'm very
Yeah.
proud of that team. So
There was a lot, when I talked to Jess, that she goes, a lot went into this season, and I couldn't be more proud. She was like, I'm more proud of this team than I've been of any team, just for
mhm,
the simple fact of how close we were and how much of a team it felt, and like how like it was
yeah,
just a great atmosphere every time we practiced, every time we
mhm,
we we suited up for matches. It was just different, and you could tell
yeah,
like the intensity level was different during that playoff match. The stakes were much higher,
yeah,
but also the disappointment is a lot greater when you don't execute,
mhm,
especially when in a sport like grid where it comes down to seconds. It really
yeah,
does. It's not like you couldn't do it. It's just you didn't do it fast enough, if that makes
yeah,
sense. And that's really
mhm,
tough. It's different than any other sport. Like at least in football, if you lose, you go, well, we didn't score enough points, or basketball,
yeah,
In this, it has nothing to do with not yeah, points matter, but really it's everyone could do the movements. It's not like someone
mhm,
went out there and couldn't do it, or it was too heavy, or whatever. You were able to
yeah. We
do it.
just
It's just you couldn't do it fast enough. And
weren't as
with
fast or
that,
efficient as them.
yeah. And one thing that's hard to swallow is like you know when you do your best, it's not quite good enough. And that's a,
Yeah,
a hard one to swallow. And obviously, the Sharks go on to just run into a buzzsaw of the Wild. The Wild end up
yeah.
winning, the 2024 championship. But when the Wild win, do you think, "Oh, yeah, I expected that," or was that a shock to you, or do you feel like that should have been us?
I want to say it was a shock, um, but I don't know. I saw that match going differently. I'll say that. I did not see it going the way it played out. Um, but I figured it would be more close. It would be closer. Um,
I I could see it both ways. When I looked at the race format, I was like, "All right, like there is strength on both sides, but this is a very
yeah.
strength-based race format." And I
Hmm.
think when I look at the best of the strength, I think it goes to the Wild. And
For sure, but
they definitely were able to do that, but that's not to say like you said, it comes down to efficiency, and that doesn't mean that just because you might have guys that are stronger doesn't mean that you necessarily are going to move better.
correct, correct. Yeah, the Wild definitely have a lot of animals that can just move barbells. It's wild. Just like watching some of their players move a barbell. It's impressive.
So thinking about, obviously, I can see it and I can hear it when you talk. Like there's some redemption in your voice. So next season, what are the plans for next season? Are you re-signing with the Brigade? Are you guys going to make a run at this? What's going on?
Yeah, yeah. I am gonna stick with the Brigade, and like I've been training since that last match, just nonstop. Like some of the things that I had issues with this season, I'm not gonna let that affect next season. Like this is the best team I've ever been on in my life in terms of, sports growing up in the military. Um, this is the most selfless and driven team I've ever been a part of. And I'm very excited for what next year has to offer because, I mean, man, this team, it's wild. I've never been on a team where it, the entire team cares more about how the team does than like their one person performing. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
there's no individuals on the team. It's insane. So without a doubt, I will give Brigade everything I have.
And
Uh,
and to your point, that a lot of that matters way more than the talent on the grid because I talk to other teams and owners and coaches and they say, we had a lot of personal team issues that we had to fight through
mhm,
before we could get where we need to get. And,
yeah.
they're like, when I talk to the owners, they also say, the team this year was much better than the previous year because we had these things going on internally.
Hmm.
And those things matter. Like we said, when you're showing up for a remote practice and you're not just the guy that's showing up on match
Hmm.
day, that stuff matters. And
Yeah.
it may not dictate how good or bad you do as a performer or as an athlete in the
Hmm.
performance level, but it matters mentally to the people that are on the
It
team and whether you're a team player or not.
it matters for team chemistry.
Yep.
And I think that this team has great chemistry. Man, we have a group chat that just stays constantly blowing up. Like when the last match ended, my wife was like, "So can you mute that chat now since it's off season?" And I was like, "Absolutely not. Like that's my family now." Like we're either posting videos, somebody's posting a video, you're giving kudos, somebody's saying that they did something awesome. Like I probably get 100 messages from that thing a day. It is just constantly bing, 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 bing. So
But it's also motivating when you see
absolutely.
your teammates, doing certain things and you're like, what did I do today? I put my feet up all day. Oh, come on. I got to get out there and do something. Like,
No,
I-
absolutely. Like last week, one of the utility guys posted a um a hang clean. It's huge weight. And us strength guys were like, well, I guess we're doing that tomorrow.
there's the bar. It has been raised. Let's
Yep.
see if we can hit the standard here. Well, it seems like you know what you got going on for next season. You know who you're going to be with. Um,
Hmm.
you guys are motivating each other. Is there going to be a lot of changes within the brigade? Do you see a lot of the same pieces coming back next year?
I see a lot of the pieces coming back. I think the we have a great team. Yeah, and I think we found the magic. So
Oh, let's go. So next
that's
year
right.
we can firmly plant the brigade as a contender for the 2025 championship. I'll tell you that. I mean, everything that I
Hmm.
hear from the brigade camp is that you guys, the team chemistry is good. You're phenomenal. It was the best team that they've had in years, and like this season is going to be something to look out for. Um, with that, Dan, man, I'm gonna end our interview with a little hypothetical. It's a question to make you think a little bit. I always like to throw something out there, totally random, off base of training, just to have a little fun with. So today, you're gonna get a nice little hypothetical.
All
Um,
right.
This hypothetical is one you may have heard of before, but I'm curious how a guy who is very structured and very military, a Marine, like how he would answer this. So here's the question: you come across a book, you start reading the book, you get 200-300 pages in, you go, man, this is my life. This book is exactly every aspect of my life, from birth to join the Marines to doing this podcast. All right. Everything is exactly how your life went. You realize, you get to this part of the book where your current day, you're on a podcast with me. And do you continue to read and find out how your life ends? Or do you go, man, I'm going to leave it a mystery. I'm going to close this book and we're going to be done with that.
That's a good one.
Got to make you think a little bit, It
Yeah.
can't all be fun around here.
Yeah. That's hard because when I read books, I'm the guy that skips chapters ahead to figure out. I don't like surprises. But mystery in life makes it interesting, dang. I probably just close it. Yeah, because like if you know what's going, like what is the point of what's pushing you if you already know?
Right. That's
What is making you a better person, a better athlete, a better citizen if you already know your outcome?
very, very well answered. Nobody has come up with that answer, and I like that. But I'll throw a little caveat. Well, first I'll ask you, can you just close the book and like put it on a bookshelf or on a table and not ever look at it, knowing that it's there? Or would you have to like eliminate this book altogether, like burn it, sell it, throw it in the
Man,
trash? Like,
I'd have to throw it out because
yeah,
on everyone's got their low point, and like you hit a low point, you'd be like, man, is it worth it? Instead of trying to find soul searching, I would just open the book.
yeah. You just want the quick answer. Does this get
Yeah.
better? Let me know.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So now I'll throw a little wrench into this. What if you get to present day and you go, "Oh shit, there's only 3 pages left in this book." Then what?
Hey, man, life. Hmm.
Live it to the fullest, man.
Hey, right,
Man,
right. Tomorrow's not promised, So.
I mean, every, I have to catch myself a lot because, there's a lot to be said about people who are like, you should live every day like it's your last. Live life to the fullest. And while I do like I really want to be that person, clearly I'm not, and
Mhm.
I don't think most people are, but like
Mm-mm.
in that scenario, like, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Like treat every day like a new day and like it's your last. Like take advantage of every little moment, every little opportunity, good or bad, that
Yeah.
comes with it. And that's hard. That is very hard when you're going through a rough patch as life, throws
Hmm.
at you sometimes, to be like, let me embrace this. Let me lean into this difficulty. Like
Yeah.
it gets it
Yeah.
gets rough. But
Yeah. You
Dan,
wouldn't build character if you could just look.
oh yeah, true, true. But Dan, I'm gonna let you run. I appreciate you coming on. Anything you want to plug or promote before you bounce out of here?
No, I appreciate you having me on. This is pretty awesome. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Well, when you guys win 2025 championship, guess what? You're gonna come back on and we're gonna break it all down. We're gonna talk about it, and it's gonna be
Perfect.
nice because we'll get
Perfect.
a little recap of this and we'll have the foreshadowing of what was going to
Hmm.
happen, and then we're gonna have it all play out. It'd be like the best Disney movie ever.
Yeah,
Be great.
perfect. Well, it's gonna happen, so we'll be ready.
Let's let's go. You heard it here first. Dan Haberman, 2025 Grid League champions, Tampa Bay Brigade. Dan, I appreciate you, man. If there's anything I can do for you along the way, reach out. Have a healthy, happy, safe holiday season, and good luck in the 2025 season. We'll be rooting for you, man.
All right, man. Thank you. You too.
That's Dan Aberman, everybody of the Tampa Bay Brigade. If you like hearing Dan's story, or you just like hearing Average Joe's talk X's and O's, please like and share the podcast on Facebook. Retweet us on X. Listen and subscribe wherever you stream your podcast. Head over to YouTube. Here in a few minutes, you're going to get this content. Hit the notifications. That way, as soon as this content's uploaded, you'll be the first to find out. We'll see everybody tonight. We'll be talking Tennessee baseball with Nate Snead on the In Off the Bench podcast. We've got Josh Newell and his wife Shay Newell of the Palm Beach Breakers on Wednesday. We got Gavin Grahovic of Texas A&M being the 500th guest on the podcast on Wednesday. And then we'll finish up Thursday, December 18th with Kelsey Slade of Oklahoma Gymnastics. Stick around. Don't miss it. Be on the socials. Look out for everything. Follow, like, subscribe. Hearts, hug, love. We'll take it all. We'll see y'all again. This has been the In Off the Bench podcast. Grid and Grad Show. Strong Buddy, Sharp Minds, Grit and Grind all the time. We are out.